most social entrepreneurs, especially, most social change people, like it's pretty good. People walk around telling you that you're like a wonderful person and your organization is great and you collect like plastic awards and stuff. I got bored.
Hi, I'm Reihan Salam, and this is the Vice Podcast Show. I'm joined today by Nancy Lublin, CEO of DoSomething.org and founder of the Crisis Text Line. Nancy, you are the CEO of a flourishing social enterprise, and you're also the mother of 12. How do you manage it?
I have a very large basement with lots of chains in the basement, apparently. No, mother of 12 sounds, wow. Nope, two excellent, good
And so what you're telling me is
kids.
the other 10 are missing.
Exactly.
Which is very
I don't
troubling to me.
recommend the other 10.
So Nancy, you are a dynamo. I followed you for a long time. You are someone, you started your first nonprofit, Dress for Success, when you were but a wee pup. My understanding is that you were only 6 years old, with a college education. You were a very formidable lady, and you decided, I'm going to start a nonprofit. And then, you did just that.
I figured out cold fusion at 4, so I thought at 6 I should start
why not?
something.
But you really did start a nonprofit when you were a very young lady. And I wonder, what drew you to the world of philanthropy and helping other people when you really are a ruthless person who just runs roughshod over others?
Exactly, I'm really a fucking idiot. Apparently I have an aversion to making money. I don't know. Why do I keep doing this? I don't know. I like cool leather jackets and shoes. I don't know why I keep starting not-for-profits. Seriously.
So, what were you? So, when you were a kid, were you growing up in the kind of household that was thinking about issues like poverty and justice?
I grew up in a mixed marriage. My mother was a Democrat who recycled back in the days when you had to drive to the recycling plant and separate the colored bottles. And my father campaigned door to door for Goldwater.
Fascinating.
So by mixed marriage, they were both Jews, but one was hardcore lefty and one was hardcore right. And you were expected to come to the dinner table having read the newspaper and being prepared to throw down. And so my whole life, my sister and I, it was like mock debate every night at the dinner table and about politics. And
did you split into different camps? Was your sister in your dad's camp and you were in your mom's camp? Or?
Well, we're 5 years apart. I was actually a Reaganomics hardcore Republican until I menstruated, and then I was like, wait a minute, this is bullshit. Everything's not equal. And wait, you're not going to do this too? Yeah. So then all of a sudden I swung the other way. And my father is still hoping that I'm going to swing back to the right.
Fascinating. So your father must have been so stoked to have this really smart little kid.
No, I was like a Republican page in the 7th grade in the Hartford State House with all the Republicans, this little loud girl.
That's amazing.
And then my father lost me. That's how he thinks of it, and he thinks that someday I'll swing back.
Was your father excited that you were a kind of an assertive, argumentative person, even when you have different political views? Was he still rooting for you that way?
I had opinions. I was I was a girl who wasn't going to get bullied or pushed around. Although I was somehow so stereotypically convinced in middle school that I wasn't good at math, and that stuck with me for a while.
Interesting.
Anyway, but I trickle down.
But your mother was someone who, so the recycling stuff makes it sound as though your mother was...
She was crunchy.
She was crunchy. She was crunchy before crunchy was in.
No, before crunchy was a thing, she was crunchy. Not long hair, hippie braids kind of thing, but separating the green from the brown from the clear colored glass.
You don't strike me as a crunchy person.
I'm not crunchy. I'm not particularly crunchy.
You're not particularly crunchy. You're not particularly earnest, and yet you run an organization that, correct me if I'm wrong, my understanding is that Do Something is all about getting young people to be excited about changing the world and volunteering. That sounds pretty earnest, and it sounds pretty crunchy.
Oh, it's so not earnest and crunchy? Your Vice, are you wonky journalism?
I'm so many things. I contain multitudes. But we're talking about you, Nancy.
But it's the same kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's the same kind of thing. The idea is that making the world a better place doesn't have to come with violins in the background and angels singing. It can be a little bit more like Metallica. And so I think, yeah.
So tell me about how you so you didn't start Do Something, but you came and you took it over. So tell me a little bit about how Do Something got started.
So Do Something was kind of the original celebrity charity, actually. So Andrew Shue, while he was on Melrose Place, the original Melrose Place, right?
I remember it well.
Yeah, exactly. He had all this fame. He was kind of an America's sweetheart. Everyone loved him. And he probably could have started a cologne line or a line of sneakers or started a music career. But instead, he put all of that energy and goodwill into starting Do Something. And the whole idea was he played sports. Growing up, he played a lot of soccer. And he thought, couldn't community service be like sports with teams and competitions and things? And it was kind of an idea before its time because there wasn't the internet yet. And so he had to start offices all over the country. Well, I got there in 2003, and there were still a few offices around the country, but the place had gone bust. Andrew was now living in New Jersey with 3 kids. Melrose was off the air. Just the world had changed. But it was the year after Friendster and the year before Facebook. And I was like, this internet thing is probably here to stay. That's where young people are. We don't need local offices anymore. So I shut down the local offices, got us out of debt. I mean, it was bad. They had just laid off 21 out of 22 people. It was bad.
Wow.
So it was like rising the Titanic off the bottom of the ocean and then turning around. So it took a few years to clean stuff up.
Which just seemed like a totally fun thing to do. Why not take an
No, it was a
organization
shit
that's in
show.
crisis and okay. So
Yeah.
what were you doing prior to that?
So I had founded Dress for Success. And
Well, tell us a little bit about Dress for Success.
So Dress for Success is the organization that helps women transition from welfare to work. So it gives them suits so they can feel confident and make great impressions at job interviews. And then helps them actually keep their jobs. So the little known thing about Dress for Success is it's really one of the only organizations that stays with women after they get the job. Everybody else, all these other organizations and government agencies are just incentivized to push people into work, any kind of work, and then they get their
And
number.
then you stop
and they
worrying
stop.
about it once
Exactly.
they're there, and then what happens a year from now, it's
But
out
that's
of your
the
hands.
hard part,
Yeah.
is you've never worked in an office before, and how do you deal with like negative feedback or emergency childcare when your babysitter cancels or a snowstorm? How do
So
you
it's
deal with
not
all
just
that?
about clothes, it's about giving people a network and a support system so they can navigate that transition.
Well said.
So you were doing that, you were growing that organization,
Yeah.
but then you were thinking, I need another
I
challenge?
got bored. I am cursed with this entrepreneurial thing. So I got bored. And I mean, most social entrepreneurs especially, most social change people, like it's pretty good. People walk around telling you that you're like a wonderful person and your organization is great and you collect like plastic awards and stuff. I like building things. I like making things. And so unlike most of my colleagues, I left.
So Dress for Success reached a point where it was basically viable. There
Anybody
were
could
people
run
who could
it.
run
Yeah.
it, and they could kind of keep growing it, but you had taken it through that phase from being nothing to being something real, and you thought, let me do something new.
Right, because and so there's a great woman who I anointed sort of my successor. She's still running it. She's doing a great job. It's now in I think 120 cities in 10 countries, and
Wow.
it's flourishing. And I'm happy for it. It's terrific, and I don't really have anything to do with it. I didn't go on the board. I'm not really connected to it. I mean, I creep on it sometimes on Google, but like I also creep on ex-boyfriends from high school, so whatever.
So then do something, you come in to do something, you're thinking, this internet thing, this might be, okay. Yeah. So then what were
Just like that. I went,
in that exact voice.
Yeah.
So what were the first steps? Okay, so you close down these local offices and you're thinking, young people.
Yeah.
Young people, they want to do stuff. Maybe some of them want to help people. Now, how do we get this? So what was the thought process from there?
So I sold them some weird pharmaceuticals with that voice, right? Yeah. So
Vacuum cleaner.
I think exactly. I think the first thing that happens when an organization is going downhill is people just think it's the money. If we only had more money, everything would be fine. It is rarely just the money. You don't have money because your program sucks or your people suck or like a whole bunch of other things suck. So I came in and the first thing I said to the board was, don't expect me to raise money for 6 months. I'm going to clean up this program. And not-for-profits, when they start losing money, start behaving like whores. And they'll do anything for money. So, oh, you want us to open up in Nebraska? We'll open up in Nebraska. Oh, you think we should reach, teachers? We'll create a program for teachers. So when I got there, they defined young people as age 5 to 30 plus parents and teachers. That is not young people. That's a whole village.
Yeah.
So the first thing I had to do was just lop off the little kids, lop off the teachers and parents, and focus on.
You make it sound so cruel.
It felt, I think, to the people who were there when I got there, to the board members and founders and people who loved to do something for years, I think it felt cruel for my first few years because I was the bad cop coming in and saying, you've been running this like a knitting circle, and now it's an entity.
Saying that you need to be really focused rather than take whatever money comes your way, let's have a core mission and do it really well. So you were thinking, why teenagers?
So that's where there was white space. I mean, so we really looked at things and thought, well, Do Something is a great name, and the idea of making social change fun, great, but is somebody else doing it? Because I don't think there should be lots of redundancy in the not-for-profit world. That's like a separate thing. We've talked about this before. Yeah. So, and I looked at the white space, and there really was nothing fun and energetic and like loud. There was the Girl Scouts, and I love me the Thin Mints. You know, I'm a life member, but we are not the Girl Scouts, and there was a need for something else that didn't require adults, for example, and that made use of technology because the internet was, burgeoning then. So, is that the right use of the word burgeoning?
I certainly think so. If you
So,
I'm okay with it.
Yeah, it's a good SAT word. So I can't spell it, but it was good use. Anyway, so it was there was a real market. There was white space. There was an opportunity there, and so we went for it. And so our sweet spot is really like a 17, 18-year-old male, which still means we skew female. But that was really the white space.
Although, so you still skew female because, okay, so this is my
we're better
crude
than you.
stereotype. Yeah, my crude stereotype is that, Do Something is about people who care, who want to get involved in their communities, they want to connect to causes bigger than themselves, and that's something that
Girls do.
girls will tend to gravitate more than boys.
No, what did you do in high school? No one knows. Yeah, we're not going to go there.
It was dark.
But exactly,
it was.
But
So your thinking is, but by targeting the 17 to 18-year-old males, you're thinking this is the tougher to reach population. If we can be relevant to these guys,
we get everybody else.
Got it.
So if you walk down any street in New York, you see a basketball court. The boys are playing and the girls are hanging out on the fence. But if you go to like the nail
really
salon,
messed up, but
it's
kinda
really
true.
no, it's
Yeah, I
so
think
messed
that
up.
that's-
And if you
yeah.
go to a nail salon, the girls are inside, and like you guys are just not smart enough to realize you should go in and get a pedicure because you will meet lots of girls. This is my advice to you.
This is
Reihan, there you go.
fascinating,
But like you guys
okay.
just haven't kind of figured that out.
Yeah.
So instead, what you do is you build something for boys in this space. You know you're going to get the girls, and hopefully you'll also get some boys.
So you particularly want handsome boys who possibly look like James Dean.
No, we
we
do not discriminate.
Okay, good. I'm glad to hear that. So tell me, what kind of programming is engaging these teenagers? Well, one thing, I'll get to it later, but also the universe of the teenage landscape in America in 2013 is obviously really different from what it has been in the past. We'll talk about that more. But yeah, specifically, like, how do you engage this population of people who have great other things to do?
Right.
They have amazing video games. I don't know if you play video games, Nancy,
Yes.
but they're incredible.
Yeah.
The entertainment available for teenagers is unbelievable.
So our competition is not actually other not-for-profits. It's video games, the mall, sports, YouTube.
You're not going to win.
It's hard.
you.
It's really hard.
Okay.
So instead what we do is we go where they are. So instead of making it, I could either make this great video with my friends, I could spoof something, or I could go do something. We want you to make a video that's about social change. Or either I could go hang out with my friends at the mall, or I could do some social change. No, we want you to do a Teens for Jeans campaign, collect your jeans and bring them to the mall, to Aeropostale. So we go where they are. I describe this as a vitamin and a Twinkie. Like, they're still getting the vitamin, but it's really fun and delicious. And that's what social change should be. It's not supposed to be wah-wah, and it never has been. I mean, if we can get serious here for a second, all social change has been rebellious and loud and fun. The Berlin Wall didn't come down because a Girl Scout troop wrote a plan and said, let's take it down. It was drunk 20-somethings at night.
That would be a great movie.
It would be a great, in the Disney version, that's what happens. But this was drunk 20-somethings who climbed on the wall and started taking it down. China started to open up when that one college student stood in front of that tank in Tiananmen, and we all have that image like burned in our minds. Jesus was a rebel. If you really want to go there, like throughout time, leaders of great social movements have always been a little bit leather-clad.
So there's a sense of thrill. I mean, because to compete with just sitting down and kind of just doing whatever it is you would naturally do, to make a break with that, you have to be compelled by it. You have to kind of want to do something. So make it exciting, make it attractive.
Yeah, we also have a rule for like causes that we pick. We say we have a no tater tot rule. So do you remember lunch in the cafeteria? The day that there was tater tots was like the best day, right? Tater tots are delicious. They are basically short, stubby French fries. They are not good for you. Every other organization is going to say, don't eat tater tots. Tater tots are bad for you. We are never going to take away your tater tots. So we might do a campaign. We have a campaign right now on healthy school lunch. It's called Fed Up. It's spelled ED up, which is basically fucked up, effed up. So it's called Fed Up, is this campaign. And you photograph your lunch, your school lunch, and upload it via Instagram. And basically, people can vote, eat it or toss it. And we've created this map. We've had almost 500,000 votes, eat it or toss it. And we've created a map of school lunch in America, whether or not like they're good lunches and healthy lunches or bad lunches. And a whole bunch of school districts have noticed that they have been flagged as toss-its.
Are you serious?
Yes.
I mean, you've collected this data, you've geotagged it.
You can go look at it right now, dosomething.org/fedup. And we're about to create some infographics about it to show like which states are really hurting and which places have delicious, healthy lunches, it's surprising to see how many kids are saying eat it on some really good looking like salads.
And it's also frankly pretty low impact, right? Because, okay,
you're going to eat it anyway, you got your phone on you.
Exactly. So I'm a teenager. So, that's one question too. So, would you say that a lot of the things that Do Something does are these things that are kind of low impact, don't necessarily take a ton of time, but it's the idea that that's the gateway drug, then you know about our brand, and then we maybe can get you to do more stuff?
Yeah, so it's a whole variety. I mean, some of these kids do have things we compete with, like the mall. A lot of them have after-school jobs. I mean, we skew low income, and so we're competing with real things, taking care of your little siblings.
You're not just competing with video
jobs.
games.
Right.
You're competing with other priorities in the family.
That matter, and that are valuable. And so we don't think that like the kid who creates an orphanage is any better than the kid who just takes a couple pictures of their school lunch and uploads it. It's do something, not do something big or do the most. It's just do something. And so we put out there a whole cafeteria, to stick with the theme, of options that you can do on social change, and it's all good.
One thing I wonder about, so when you're thinking about teenagers now, I mean, there's so many differences from when we were growing up, when we were in high school. One thing I think about is your world as a teenager used to be really circumscribed by the town you were living in or the high school you were going to. It just was really narrow, and you kind of felt a little limited and kind of oppressed by whatever was immediately around you. And another thing is that families have changed in huge, huge ways. And also, kids who are teenagers now, this is a way more diverse group of people as well. So I imagine both of those things, create opportunities and challenges for you guys. I mean, how do you think about that, and how do you relate it to your own experiences as a teenager? I know I've asked you like 7 questions in one, but
yeah, so I'll take the ones I like. So, it is really different being a teenager now in so many ways, but some things are the same. They still feel oppressed and stuck with their friends, their school, their 6 blocks, or their neighborhood, and like New York is that big city off in the distance or something like that. I mean, that's still how young people live. Their life is very, very local. And so when we give them stuff that they can do, that they can take action on locally, that matters to them, it resonates. So for example, the top 2 causes, just always for young people, can you guess what they are? 2 things that young people always care about.
They care about animals?
Yes.
And they care about the environment?
No.
Ooh, okay.
Homelessness.
Okay. Interesting.
So animals and homeless. So why is that? You can totally understand them. You can totally see them in your community. They are things that are worse off than you on the totem pole of life. The environment, is that happening here, or is that like in the Arctic?
Very abstract.
Where is that?
Yeah.
It's very abstract. It doesn't seem so local. You can't really see it. You can't really touch it. It's complicated. So animals and homeless are always in the top 5 of causes that kids care about.
Fascinating. So do you use, so when you're saying that these communities are still very local, but you guys are a national organization, and to some degree, it seems that you guys are kind of a technology-driven organization, and you're kind of building tools that other people can kind of build off of and that kind of thing. So how do you approach the fact that it's so local, given that you guys are a kind of New York-based national organization?
Yeah, no, we're a bunch of, liberal atheists sitting in New York, and our market is not, right? Like most of the Do Something members are spiritual. They are incredibly diverse. We over-index minority and urban, and they're all over the country. They exactly mirror the national footprint. So we build technologies for them. It is a technology company. 1/3 of our team writes code or touches code every day or product. And And that's what makes us scalable. That's why we're so large.
And you're just basically creating new tools constantly to engage this audience? Is that kind of
Yeah,
where
so
the technology effort is
what
going?
we've managed to do is come up, the idea of social change, we've managed to categorize it in types. So there are collections. Collecting jeans for homeless kids, collecting peanut butter for food pantries, collecting warm coats. Those are collections. Another one is change a place. So paint a mural, clean a park. So there's 6 types that we've managed to sort of plot out. And then what we do is we build for each type. So think of us as like a car company. And a car company, Toyota will have the Prius, the Corolla, the Camry, they must have a truck. And then every year you come out with new versions, but it's the same chassis. And that's really what we're trying to do with social change. And that's why we're a technology company, because the idea is you could put as many kids in there as possible and we won't break. That's what it really means to be built for scale. I think the word scale has been so overused by so many people and they don't really know what it means. What it means is that without an infusion of capital, you could still grow like massively. We are built for that. Like, come and get it.
So there are many things that annoy you about the philanthropic world as it currently exists, and just this idea of organizations that are really constantly catering to donors and this kind of thing, and that are just kind of totally donor-driven. Like, what do you guys want? Rather than focusing on their own mission.
You just made them little bunnies. That was good.
But I wonder. I mean, what is the okay? You have a lot of donors who care about big things like education and what have you. But you guys are working on trying to get young people engaged. What is your pitch to someone who's a donor who cares about social change, who cares about making the world a better place, about what it is that you guys do that makes a kind of material, meaningful contribution to bettering people's lives? So
the average not-for-profit, guess what percentage of their money comes from individuals?
7.
81%.
Wow.
81% of funding in the not-for-profit space comes from individuals. We're at about 3. So we don't do, you've never received a letter from me. There's no direct mail that's like, oh, it's the holiday season, please contribute. I hate receiving it, we don't send it.
It's also a lot of work.
It's a lot of work, it's expensive. You end up paying some third party who makes more money than the charity even makes. So we don't do individual giving.
That sounds gross.
Yeah, there's a whole investigative piece for Vice. Yeah. So that's not what we do. We are almost entirely corporate supported. So what we do is we pitch companies.
Which, by the way, will sound gross to other people.
Right, so let me explain how that works. And so we're very careful about what companies we pitch. And we're not just pitching companies where the brand doesn't make us squeamish, right? Where the brand is a great brand fit, we care about the same things. We're picking them, or because they just have money, but also because they have a great footprint, like an Aeropostale. So we don't ever want to open offices all over the country, but Aeropostale has over 1,000 stores around the country. So kids can drop off their jeans there. That helps us. We're looking for lists. We worked with Walmart at one point in time, and Walmart has a huge Facebook group. Walmart's Facebook fans is over 30 million Facebook fans, and so we coordinated with their Facebook, and that's better than being on the Today Show or New York Times or anything else. Like, that's fantastic marketing. So
particularly in some of these communities that are harder to reach, that are rural, yeah.
So, and it's a place where these harder to reach, vulnerable populations go every week. They're constantly in a Walmart. So we pick our partners based on synergy with the target market, as well as the brand, the concept, other leveraged assets, things like that. But we're 83% corporate funded.
Well, and I'm curious, but your theory yourself, is your idea that by engaging kids with these projects, you're connecting them to things outside of their own life and they're outside of their own family, and you're kind of setting them up to have bigger ambitions?
Yeah, the theory of change, which is the theory of change, the fancy term. The theory of change is young people are awesome now. This isn't about like training them for when they're older. It's not development for later. They are super creative now. They have a lot of energy now. They're pissed off about things now. And they're like this great untapped resource, this kind of silent army that we can turn and pivot on things. The peanut butter story I was talking about before, we called the food pantries and said, do you really need soup? Everybody does canned soup drives for you. And they said, no, we don't need soup, we need protein. We need non-perishable protein. That's peanut butter. So we said, okay, we got you. So we did something called...
I need some peanut butter right now.
So we did something called the Peanut Butter and Jam Slam. And the whole thing was, are you team crunchy or team smooth? Because every kid has an opinion on their peanut butter. And in a month, we collected 250,000 jars of peanut butter. So it's massive scale. So we want to have the most kids doing the most possible good. That's the idea.
You're working on a new project right now that is very intriguing to me, called the Crisis Text Line. And the reason it's intriguing to me is that as an old man, I've noticed that the young people are always texting. It's like, what is it? What is this buzzing I'm getting in my phone? What is this nonsense? But I mean, so tell me a little bit about the Crisis Text Line, the theory behind it, and what you hope to accomplish.
So right now at Do Something, we text 1.5 million kids every other week. So we're doing a lot of texting. And
that's not so frequent that they'd be too annoyed by it. I
no,
guess.
actually, and we have a whole data science team, and believe me, we know exactly how much and what time of day and what words to use. And it's great. And when we originally started doing it, we thought of it as a push mechanism, that we would just like another channel to push out messaging. And it turns out that it's also a fantastic pull mechanism, and that kids have really thought you only text your parents or friends and Do Something. There aren't lots of other brands doing this, and it's all opt-in only. The rules about texting are pretty stringent, so it's very hard to break into. And but they started texting us. So we would send out a message about the peanut butter and jam slam, and then they started texting us back about awful stuff going on in their lives, like being bullied, cutting. And the worst text message we ever got was 2 years ago, August, and it said exactly this, word for word: "He won't stop raping me. It's my dad. He told me not to tell anyone. Are you there?" Like, we're total strangers. And this girl clearly had nowhere else to turn, trusted us. I mean, we were humbled, we were horrified. And that day, I had the idea to build Crisis Text Line. And so I worked with some other colleagues in the office and helped put a plan together. It took me 2 years to raise the money, which is a whole nother story, but raising money for startups in the not-for-profit space is really difficult. And it went live in August, so almost exactly 2 years from when we got the text from her, the service went live.
How many people do you envision using the Crisis Text Line eventually?
So it's kind of in beta now, which basically just means it's quiet. And I haven't done a lot of interviews about it. We haven't blasted it everywhere. I haven't even tweeted about it off the Do Something account or anything like that. We thought we'd hit 1,000 users like the middle of November, and we actually passed 5,000 users in the end of October. So it's growing faster than we ever imagined, and we're trying to sort of keep it at bay. But we think it should be as big as 911.
Who is on the other end of it? I mean, because this sounds like a pretty, 911 is obviously very labor intensive. So who are the people
911 is labor intensive also because it's a phone. And so when you have a spike in volume, there's either a longer wait time or you have to have more bodies answer by phone. What's really great about text is if you're the counselor, we've actually built this like an accordion, so you can handle up to 4 people on one screen at the same time. So it's actually really terrific.
I see.
So Crisis Text Line has built the technology and the brand, and we'll do all the marketing for it, and also the data, which is one of the most exciting parts about it. And then we put out an RFP and we outsource the actual counseling to call centers in Seattle, Miami, and Boston. And we're now toying with a white label, actually, for experts in various spaces. But so the counseling we've outsourced to people who've already been doing this. It's basically new technology, old problem, old solution, new technology.
Got it.
So that's great. And
stupid question, but so
never.
What you're telling me is that with the traditional phone lines and what have you, maybe that's too high a barrier to entry for a lot of teenagers, a lot of young people. They just don't use it.
So not only don't they use the phone and they don't call, the other thing that we have found just in these first few months is that on hotlines, apparently it takes something around 15 minutes to get a kid to actually say what's really going on, right? Because you're talking to another human being's voice, and so it's hard to say, I'm being raped by my father, or I have an eating disorder. You're confessing it to another human being. You also get prank calls by phone. You get lonely people. By text, no one prank texts. And by text, if I say, are you coming home for dinner?
Because
you'll say 6 p.m.
It's not satisfying to prank text, right? Because there's not another person. It's just, that's really interesting.
And it's not for lonely people, and it is just objective, clear information. So it turns out text is a phenomenal way to get to the heart of an issue quickly. And so it's great for counseling.
How did you figure that out?
We text with 1.5. If you really love your target market, if you really love teenagers, I mean, this is like just big picture for any business, for profit or not for profit. If you really love the people you serve, you're going to serve them well. I mean, on a Friday night, I'm still watching iCarly reruns, and I miss it. I miss the new episodes.
It's a really good show.
It's a good show.
Really good
That
show.
Sam is one funny blonde.
Well, that's another issue. So you seem to be really into the youth and the teens.
So immature.
Is there a period at which that will become creepy?
I'm sure. And I do have kids now, not 12, but I do have 2 of them, and I don't think they get it. I think they just think I'm a little weird. Then there'll be a period when they're like, "Wow, mom's cool. She can get tickets to Jingle Ball," and then they'll be like, "Oh, you're so annoying. Shut up about Lord," like shut up about new whatever.
But I wonder, what is it about that age group? So when you were working on Dress for Success, you were working with lots of vulnerable women who were older, who were kind of neglected in lots of ways, who kind of didn't have people looking out for them. But what is it about teenagers in particular that always connected with you and that you find compelling? Because it's obviously kind of a life's work for you. So I wonder.
So I was
basically
in the women's.
They're punks.
No, they're
punks.
awesome.
Okay.
No, they're so great.
Well, okay, you tell me what you think.
I loved Dress for Success. I really loved the clients. Like I could hang out in the shop every day and just dress clients. It was so much fun, and I learned so much from those women because I never met like the welfare mom. TV would have, pop culture would have you believe she is one thing, but I saw like Russian immigrants and women of all ages, definitely women of all sizes. In 1998, every woman who came to Dress for Success wanted a gray pinstripe pantsuit, because that's what every woman was wearing. Like it was such an education in the diversity of what it means to be poor in America. It's not any one thing. And I love those women. I didn't have as much fun working with like the women's rights and like organizations. Like the women's not-for-profit space is backbiting. And that wasn't a lot of fun. And the whole welfare to work space and that whole sort of not-for-profit, it was a very not-for-profit world. That wasn't as much fun for me. What I learned about myself doing Dress for Success is that I actually am a business person. I'm not really a not-for-profit person, which is weird because all I've done is not-for-profits. But like my husband and I fight in the morning over who reads the business section of the Times first. I don't even read the arts section. That's bad to admit.
Well, no, but then,
it sounds so uncultured.
It's actually pretty fun.
I like New York Magazine.
Tell me about the teenage piece, though.
But then the teenage piece, this is not, like we're not working with lots of education institutions and youth organizations. We're working with young people and then with like cool, fun brands and, Viacom and interesting artists and
well, I guess because like institutions like school, you're kind of compelling teenagers. And when your relationship to a teenager is like, I'm your principal, I'm your teacher, it's kind of like there is a degree to which you want to be attractive to them and you want to be compelling to them, but there's also a degree to which I'm compelling you. Whereas you're just purely trying to be attractive to you. We're just trying to kind of get you.
We're on the cutting edge of innovation, youth culture. We called 6 months ago, we were kind of the canary in the coal mine for people in our world, telling them like young people were leaving Facebook. We were looking at Snapchat early. We've been playing with YouTube early. Like SMS, nobody was really talking about SMS. It's seen as like the typewriter to most people, but we know like if you're in youth culture, you know that matters. What I really do now is youth and technology. It's really fun. It changes constantly. So for someone like me who gets bored and is really an entrepreneur, to be at a place that's constantly changing is home.
So does it make sense for you to kind of take this expertise that you've built around how to connect with this audience, around really having a granular, rich understanding of where American teenagers are right now, and doing something commercial with that and allowing that to feed into the other stuff that you're doing?
Go make some money, Nancy.
Well, no, it seems like you really like business.
I do, but I think what I'm doing is business. I think I'm solving problems for young people. I'm trying to solve and at least thinking about every day some of the world's biggest problems, and working with really great companies and brands. I think I have the best job in America. Would it be nice if I also made some money? I guess so, but what would I spend it on? I don't know. H&M is just fine with me. Like I don't need
I'm just
Prada.
imagining you buying feather boas.
Can you? No, ew. Yeah.
So okay, I want to know. There are lots of the youth, as you know, who also want to have a positive impact on the universe. And you've had a pretty interesting career. You've done a lot of different things. So I wonder if you have any thoughts for the, Nancy, the argumentative, kind of
the child stuck in a mixed marriage.
Exactly,
right.
Stuck in a mixed marriage and kind of, wants to figure out, what would you say? Because I'm sure you get this question a lot, but I'm curious.
A couple things. One is skip the business plan. It makes me so sad when I walk into a Starbucks and I see all these young unemployed people hunched over laptops, like banging out. I mean, if it's a screenplay, that's one thing. But the business plans, it's not about the business plan. Go make something. Go make a product, make a service, make a technology, make something.
Like a macrame belt.
That would look fantastic with this suit.
I think that would be a good look for me.
Exactly, depending on the color. Absolutely.
Okay, so skip the business plan.
Make it, ship it, see if people like it. That's one. Two is, I really think fall in love with a target market. I love this youth space. I think I'll be in it for a long time. I love youth culture. And that motivates me and keeps me honest and keeps me focused. To us, anybody over the age of 25 is an old person. And kind of whoosh, it's like I'm 13 to 25, I work for you. You are the boss of me. And I don't know. And the last piece of advice is, don't take it all so seriously. I mean, I think people expect when they meet me, oh, she's been in the not-for-profit world forever, that I'm going to be such a bummer. And I'm going to make them feel bad about their lives and why aren't you doing more social change work? And
you make me feel bad because you make me want to be more awesome and fun.
No, but you are so awesome and fun, and you're okay with my...
But that's feeling bad in a good way.
No, well... No,
So don't take it so seriously, meaning just don't, when you fail, when you have a reversal, don't take it, or just in general?
I mean, I fail all the time. I fail daily. And fuck up a lot and have a potty mouth and speak from the heart. And now I'm a weird Hallmark card.
How can people find the crisis text line?
741-741 is the number. It makes a line. Get it? So 741-741, you can text it 24/7 and it's free. And so anybody can use it anytime. We're not cutting off old people. We just think it'll skew young. But Crisis Text Line, and you can learn more about it at crisistextline.org. If people need help, they should text in.
Thank you very much, Nancy. It was really wonderful to get to talk to you, and I really appreciate your time.
It's so good to see you.